Go.
Hi, I'm Marlene. I'm the Adult Services Supervisor from the North Carroll branch, and I want to welcome you to my home. I'm starting a new series this fall, Marlene at Home. You can come online and visit me. No mask needed, no social distancing. I've always said I'm a lover of home, and I learned that phrase at a young age from a Bible verse that talks about a lover of home. But during Corona, I have found I'm not so much a lover of home as I thought. I'm more of a lover of people in my home. So that's why I really hope people will join me for this series. It's kind of lonely when it's just you and your spouse or maybe your children. You miss having guests. When you first come into my home, you're in a foyer, and I have a love of dishes, and so this is where I keep some very special dishes. This is the china pattern fostoria that my grandmother had. My middle name is after my grandmother, and so these are very special to me. But during this Corona time, one dish in particular has really stood out to me. This was a dish that my grandmother got as a wedding gift. It's a very heavy cut glass dish, and she gave it to me, but it has a lot of special meaning to me because I did not know this through childhood. My grandparents had 5 children. There was like 25, 27 of us grandchildren. But later in my growing up years or my early adult years, I learned that my grandmother had been married before my grandfather. And to a grandchild, that was pretty shocking. And I remember she would come to my home as a new bride, and she would say to me, and we lived an hour or two from where I grew up, she would say to me, "Could you take me to this cemetery?" And I would drive her 15 minutes from where we lived to a cemetery, and she would tell me the story. This was the cemetery plot of her mother, of her stepfather, and of her first husband. Here I was as a young married mom with a toddler, so we would have Carrie with us at our feet, and my grandmother would tell me the story of her first husband. They were only married a short while. It was in 1921. It was just a few years after the pandemic of 1918. You have heard of that pandemic, I'm sure. It lasted about 2 years. But I've read a number of articles that say the after effects of the pandemic affected health for many years thereafter. My grandmother's first husband was a trolley driver, train driver, sometimes a bus driver, and took ill quite suddenly from what I've heard. Wasn't there, don't know all the details exactly. But I was under the impression from things that my grandmother said that it was a complication from something related to the 1918 pandemic, the flu pandemic. And so he was a young, healthy young man. In a few days, took ill, and he was gone. Now, I've heard from other family members that it was a kidney complication, so then I was doubting, was it really related to the pandemic? But then I have since read that some of the after effects of the pandemic also included a whole assortment of different ailments, and kidney issues could have been one of them. What amazed me about this wedding gift to my grandmother, she says, she's written on the back, she says, "My friend Minnie gave me the cut glass berry dish for my wedding, June 22nd, 1921. And then on the front is a sympathy card, and it's dated 11/19/21. So my grandmother was married only a few months, and she gave me this gift and this card that came with it to remind me of a very happy time and a very difficult time. I think of this often when I pass the foyer here and look at this cabinet. I wonder about what our after effects will be from the pandemic. We don't even know the after effects and the problems with it right at the present time, let alone about what's coming down the road in a year or two. But it does make me stop and think, maybe I should put that mask on. Maybe I shouldn't go out with my friends. But just food for thought, something that reminds me to be more careful than I sometimes want to be. This has been very special to me, and so I wanted to share that with you. We'll be talking about a lot of different things in my home in this series. We're going to be talking about the joy of being on a porch. Do you have a porch? We love our porch. My girls are grown. It's my husband and I here at this house, and that's one of our favorite places to be. We'll talk about the brightness of flowers. You might have a green thumb. You might be like me and not have one, but you can still have flowers. You might want to talk about the blessing of music in your home. It can add so much to brighten your life, to pick up your spirits. We will talk about things like the beauty of a table setting, the fun of decorating at your house, or the fun of different things we collect, the delicious aroma that can come from our kitchens, and I'll look for some easy recipes. The delightful decorating. I'm no interior decorator, but I like to play at it and pretend I am, so I'll share some of those ideas with you too. And maybe we'll get all the way up till Christmas. I like to transform this place. And I love the ooh and ah decorating that you can get from lighting, from switching things up. I always say, if you're afraid to have company because your house doesn't look great and it's not totally clean, then have them at night and light candles. They'll never know. But we might have to wait for that in-home entertaining for a while. I just want to say thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll come back to share my house with me again in Marlene at Home. Have a good day.